Again, hi, my name is Arwen. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. After I'm sure you had everyone had a busy day at work. So again, I'm one of the co-founders or co-organizers of BTGNY. And without our great sponsors, who we want to mention in a little bit, this wouldn't have happened. We're hopefully sooner than later we'll be going back into doing physical events, which would be great. So definitely look forward to that. So this event is brought to you by BTGNY. The purpose of our events is to really engage business and technology leaders like yourselves of Greater New York to discuss their management and technology best practices and opportunities. And I think one of the nice things, I guess, about Zoom is we're able to engage other people outside of just the kind of local immediate New York area. So that's one of the nice things about that. So BTGNY is sponsored by X Matters, Brooklyn Winery, and Augmentation Brewing.
Shameless plug right here.
Right there.
If any of you guys get to attend our events live, there'll be plenty of this in supply.
Yes.
And so also these guys, Augmentation in a can.
There you go.
Hackensack. Augmentation, get it?
Augmentation, yeah. So once we go back in person, we will definitely that's part of the nice thing about our live events. We do networking, and then we do a little bit of food, wine, and beer as well. So hopefully we'll see you sooner than later. So we love to take questions during the event, but just to make it a little smoother and more interactive, we want to just take questions at the end. So if you want to use the chat function at the bottom of your screen, feel free to type your questions, and then we'll definitely address them live immediately right after the Fireside Chat. So with that said, let's get started with the Fireside Chat, and I will hand the baton over to our host extraordinaire, Mr. David Simpson. David.
I wouldn't go that far. Slip the baton through the hole here at the top of my screen. Thanks so much for that. That was a great introduction as always, Arwen. I'm David Simpson. I'm also part of the BTGNY team in New York. This is my, I think, third or fourth year. I haven't been on as long as Deepak, but I've posted some of these before, and I'm deeply involved. I think it's a great initiative. Our speakers have been fabulous, and we have some nice momentum in spite of the pandemic. My day job is I'm managing director for USA and Europe for a digital tech solutions agency called Actioned. It's like Actioned, but with an X. So it's AXIONED. Some of you have seen my profile on LinkedIn. I'm also involved in a few other endeavors, including a Belgian startup where I'm on the advisory board. It's really a scale up in the HR tech space called Kazi. And I also recently started working, it's taking on a whole new dimension on its own, which is great. I've been doing a lot of work with formerly incarcerated people. There are a lot of organizations and companies that are second chance employers. And so I'm a coach and a mentor for a handful of formerly incarcerated people, trying to get them back into the job market and prepping them for job fairs. And I just recently started working a little bit with Christophe here and helping him expand awareness of the Rapid MOOC product. So staying pretty busy. But let's get started. I'm very proud to introduce our guest for the 36th BTGNY Fireside Chat. As all of you hopefully know, her name is Diana Bald. She is CEO of Thoughtbot, which is a team of expert design and development consultants. They bring web and mobile products from validation to success. And along the way, they help clients build features and start designing the right product with the right strategy. When I first met, I met Diana roughly 7, 8, 9 years ago. We were trying to pin it down. We think we got there, but we're not sure. They do have offices around the world, HQ in Boston, but in this day and time, they're really geographically neutral, and she'll probably talk a little bit about that. So instead of promoting, cities where they work or where they have specific capabilities, they now possess collaborative teams around the world, and they've organized around disciplines based on client needs. So there's Thoughtbot Ignite, which has a whole range of services for startups and scale-offs. And then, all along the evolution of growth, there's Thoughtbot Liftoff, which has another set of capabilities, Thoughtbot Boost, Thoughtbot Mission Control, et cetera. So location is not an issue for Thoughtbot. Diana describes herself as a deep generalist. She has experience in general management, strategy, business development, partnerships, and marketing execution, and also as a growth driver. She is a lover of Kaizen. I don't know what that is, but it sounds impressive. And prior to Thoughtbot, Diana has had key strategic roles in marketing and business development with such places as Liberty, how'd I do? Liberty Mutual, and I guess that emu guy, who I don't like that much, but that's another story. Also with Assembly, which was formerly TargetCast, ID Media, and Univision Communications. And then lastly, Diana is a magna cum laude graduate of the University of Redlands in California, and she possesses also an MBA from USC, which she achieved by working full-time, which is to be commended. I'm letting a few people on here again. I'm multitasking here. So welcome, Diana.
Thank you.
Great
Thanks so much.
You're quite welcome. So we at BTGNY, we have these fireside chats. There's no fireside, it's a metaphor. But what we do is as many of you know, we like to bring on guests who speak from experience about best practices in business, leadership, management, and technology from their world. And we hope that by sharing this information, you all will sort of glean insights and learnings from this that will help us all learn and be better in our jobs. So the format is we throw some topics out there. We've had the opportunity to discuss some of these in advance, but from a selection that we have, I think we've got a nice mix today. So I will start out. This is a popular question. Some of you who are on here have heard this one before. The answers are always very intriguing. So Diana, to kick it off, can you name a person who has had tremendous impact on you as a leader? And by that, maybe someone who has been a mentor to you, and why and how did this person impact your life?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to give you a very different kind of answer.
That's great. Love that.
That you probably don't hear very often. But I would say that the person who has been the greatest mentor to me and had the most tremendous impact on me as a leader has been my husband. He's an alpha male. He is very passionate. He's very charismatic. So I think he's everything I'm not. He is very strong. I, on the other hand, am very calm. I'm very nerdy. I'm not as charismatic as him by any means. I went to study. He just kind of seems to pop up and have the answer. I will prepare diligently, do a lot of research, have my talking points. He will tell a funny joke. Totally opposite of me. But he's taught me so much because he has a perspective that is different than mine, of course, and that informs me. It has taught me. He is an alpha personality, and to him, anything is possible. And he says yes to opportunities, and that's one thing that I feel like as somebody who's naturally calmer, I wouldn't describe myself as a natural alpha person, have learned that it's great to say yes, and it's great to let yourself get passionate about a project, because it doesn't matter if you win necessarily. It's the learning that happens along the way, and the people that you meet and the impact that you make. That's the most important thing, I think. Mm-hmm. And he's also studied a lot of Eastern philosophy and Buddhism and Stoicism. And he's imparted this wisdom to me along the way. And I've just absorbed it like a sponge. And all of these things that I've learned I've applied to business, and they have served me really well. So when I think about like who's had the most, I want to say it was a business person in an office that I worked with. And there have been really great mentors, but in terms of tremendous impact, it's got to be my husband. He's the one that has helped me the most.
Yeah, that's great. When you and I spoke the other day, you'd mentioned that one of his attributes is that he sort of taught you how men think, and I found that to be interesting and funny in some respects. And how did you please share maybe a thought or two on that subject?
So negotiation is probably the most one that comes to mind the most. Is he looks at everything as a negotiation. So like, for example, when it comes to raises, I would just say, oh, I'm getting a raise? Great, more money. But he would say, no, you're getting a raise, but you deserve to get that raise, and you deserve to get more than that. And here's why. And I would say, you're right, or he would say, if that were me, I would point out these and these and these things. And that's on the salary side, but that applies to everything down. It doesn't matter what it is. He'll negotiate anything he can.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And it's just like such a great lesson for me,
I can relate to that. I mean, I was thinking about that as well. And like you, I was thinking, okay, who over the course of my life has been a great mentor? Someone's had an impact on me, and it's typically someone in the business environment. But when I think about it, and you said your husband, I would say my wife. One of the things that I really look to her for is she's an amazing judge of character. And it takes me time to get to know somebody, business wise or otherwise. But she has this knack. She just has this sixth sense. She can pick up on vibes and chemistry and eye contact and all these other things. And I've made some mistakes, and I get the old, yeah, see, I told you. And doesn't happen often, but she's just a really good judge of character. So I'd have to agree with you. I mean, it's not, she wouldn't necessarily have been my first choice, but now that I think about it, isn't it in the end all about personal relationships and who you choose to do business with or partner with? So it's been very, very helpful to me in that regard. Let's move on to the next one. What are the core values and what is the vision of your company, Thoughtbot? And how do you or other leaders in your organization communicate them internally?
Thoughtbot is one of the things that really attracted me to Thoughtbot. It's a smaller firm. I come from Liberty Mutual, which is a massive organization, 50,000 people and 900 offices around the world, Fortune 70-something company. And I came to Thoughtbot. It's just a lot smaller. But what attracted me a lot about them is that they believe that it's possible to continuously learn and improve the way you work and to build higher quality products and make a positive contribution along the way. They say no to business sometimes. So like if there's a business opportunity that conflicts with their values, we'll pass. And that I found admirable. And I thought that is really cool. I really like that they have enough confidence to say no to something that they don't believe in. They also, by the same token, if they really believe in something, and I say they, the team, the Thoughtbot team,
right?
They'll take it and work really hard at it. There's a lot of healthcare companies in this space right now that we're helping that fall into that space. So maybe learning new technologies or helping us dive into a complex, solving a complex problem. All of that it is the adverse, the opposite of turning down business, because it's that belief in making a positive contribution to the world.
Mm-hmm. You talked at one point about how you practice continuous improvement and assert self-management. Just curious, how do you practice that? One or two examples. And then on the asserting the self-management style side of it, I assume that would entail or incorporate, you know, a certain level of responsibility and accountability, you know.
Yeah. One example is we do a lot of retros every week. We do them across the board, not only on projects with the team, but projects with the leadership team. So like at the end of every week, we'll meet and we'll talk about what went well for the week, what didn't go so well. And then you will talk about what are we going to do to make this better. So there's some things that, you know, we all bring to the table, and we tend to focus on the stuff that didn't go so well, which it's fun to celebrate like the great stuff, but we also kind of think about what didn't go so well, and what are we going to do to fix it, which sometimes are harder conversations to have, but they're definitely help us get better.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think most of us don't do enough of that because it makes us uncomfortable, and it's hard to get out of that, you know, comfort zone. What is one characteristic that you believe every leader should possess?
I think that listening is really critical. I think that being a good listener is like, it's something that people say they do, and everybody thinks we're good listeners, but are you really? Like, I think listening is an act of giving, and it's an act of being fully present. And I think I'm a good listener, but then I challenge myself and I think, no, I could be better. There are many layers to listening. I mean, you got to listen with your ears, but you have to listen with your eyes. What are people saying with their body language? You got to listen with your heart and your gut.
In your gut, yeah.
It's in your gut. It's in your heart too.
Yeah.
How is that person feeling? I mean, are they feeling something that they're not saying, and why? What's not being said? We're juggling so many distractions and so many things. Like, what else aren't you being told? And isn't like the good information in that thing that you're not being told? The silence and resistance is really important to listen to and for as well. And so, and understanding the context of things, like remaining curious and remaining, you know, conscientious of any your own biases as you're listening and absorbing this information. So I just gave many examples of why listening is hard, and it's just it's good to constantly challenge oneself and say, am I really listening? Am I really doing all these things? I myself say no to a lot of this stuff often, and I challenge myself to try to get better at it.
No, you're right. You can learn so much just by listening. You know, you talked a minute ago about the silence. If you're busy flapping your gums, you're self-absorbed. You can't hear. You can't pick up on these cues. You miss a lot. And we talked a lot about this at Action in new business pitches and client meetings and so forth. Just be quiet and just listen. Let them talk, and then, you know, they feel compelled to open up more. And it's just so productive. You can learn so much more through that. And we've made that, you know, that's a rule. It's on the checklist at Action. When we're in new business meetings or client meetings, we just say, just shut up and listen, you know, and get them to talk and get them to open up, and they'll feel more comfortable and they'll share more, and you're going to be in a much better place at the end. And let me just let on a couple of people here. We have people trickling in still. What is the biggest challenge? A segue then, what is the biggest challenge facing leaders today, in your view, Diana?
I think simultaneously leading for today and tomorrow at the same time. I think that it's really important to do that. Like a lot of the things that we see that have been disrupting the world in 2020 and early 2021 have been because a lot of leaders haven't done that. They've been so focused on leading for today, they haven't really thought about leading for tomorrow. And I'm talking about leaders of the past, because if they thought about leading for tomorrow, then a lot of these diversity and inclusion issues, a lot of these climate change issues wouldn't be as prevalent as they are right now. So today we're in that leadership spot. So the challenge to ourselves is, how do we think about the long-term view for many generations to come, not just our own kids or, you know, nieces and nephews or whatever, but their kids and their kids. How are we leading in our little worlds, in our domains today, to be good, responsible corporate citizens, but also for tomorrow. And I think that that's a really important question that anyone in a leadership spot and in any spot, because if you're not in a leadership spot, it's holding your leaders accountable to those questions. It's really, really important. And it's increasingly important every day that goes by. We shouldn't be facing a lot of the issues that we're facing as a society, and we are. And that needs to stop. We need to start to think in terms of today, but also tomorrow.
The long view perspective is interesting because, you know, for time immemorial, we've talked about the issue or the challenge with corporations and organizations that don't have the long-term view, and they're trying to maximize profits or shareholder wealth, or, you know, it's always about it's a bit of a myopic view, but it happens. But the long-term view, the long-term view perspective that you're speaking of, and looking at the original question, what is the biggest challenge facing leaders today? I think that it's interesting because of what's going on right now. People are, you know, we're coming out of this, I think. You know, then I see statistics that say we're not. But to do all these things with a long view, you also have to look at the environment that you're working in. People are not going to be coming into the office as much. You've made a decision not to. At Thoughtbot, you're going to be working remotely. So a challenge is to convey these values and these philosophies and this, you know, outside of the office in a non-physical environment. And how do we do that? Do we get together once a month? Do we get together quarterly? Do we do it over Zoom? You know, that is a big piece of it. That's a challenge as well. So even to achieve all these benevolent things long term, how are we going to be structured, and how are we going to be geared for the future?
Yeah. Those are good questions.
Yeah. Figure it out, let us know. Let's move into technology. We have a few questions here as well. How do you see technology's place within Thoughtbot changing? We normally ask that question in a vacuum, but now we're asking it in the context of the pandemic. How do you see the technology's place within your company changing in the next 3 to 5 years, and what are you doing to prepare for it?
Yeah, well, like, and you did a good job, great job, by the way, on describing Thoughtbot. So you know, we did design and we do development, really good, actually.
Thank you.
We did design and development, and both of those areas are changing significantly in the next 3 to 5 years, I think. And so we're keeping our eye on 3 horizons. We're keeping our eye on the immediate horizon, which we think about as 2021, a little bit further away, which is like 2023, and then like longer term. We don't want to go any further out than 2025, because even that to us seems like, you know,
who knows where we'll be.
Exactly. But we do think in terms of like, what is the world going to look like possibly in these areas, you know, in these years, and like, what do we want to be in these years, and what are we going to do to prepare ourselves to get there in the areas that we want to be. And we also, go ahead, sorry.
So let's take the short run. Let's say in the next year or two, what is technology's place within your company, and what do you see changing? Either in a vacuum or as a result of sort of where we all are now.
So healthcare is a big area of growth and learning for us this year. It's very pandemic related in that, you know, we ended up taking a lot of telemedicine projects because we had to. A lot of clients were. We're working on some vaccine projects right now. We're working on some pharma projects, and they're all involving, like, some of them are involving data science, and machine learning is increasingly important for us. Skills expanding beyond, like, you know, we started off as a Ruby firm, and we're like growing into other areas as well. That's the immediate 2021 horizon.
Right, which makes sense because, you know, as your interests and the nature of the company is to work in such areas where, you know, that are so vital, especially now, the offerings for these specific industries are going to impact the different kinds of technologies that you're going to be assuming on their behalf and your own, internally as
Yeah.
well as externally.
Yeah. Fintech is also an area of growth for us this year. We're seeing a lot more cryptocurrency projects. Really, 2021 hit us with a lot of cryptocurrency projects. I'd say like 3 of them. Fintech. So those 2 areas for us are very strong this year.
You can now buy cryptocurrency on Cash App, which blew my mind. You can buy it in, you can buy $1, of a Bitcoin. They sell Bitcoin on there as well. You can also trade stock now on Cash App. It's amazing. If you could see 5 years into the future of technology, what one action would you recommend to your CEO? And you are the CEO, so let's rephrase that. What action do you see taking place, or would you recommend, or are you embracing 5 years into the future of technology?
It's really hard to say because things are changing so fast. And I keep an eye on quantum computing because I'm really interested in it. But if it does take off, it's going to totally change everything. It'll be a game changer on how a lot of things work.
Gotcha.
But areas that we're really thinking about right now are low code, no code, advances in data science and machine learning, and natural language processing, and things like, how do we factor in ethical and unconscious bias influences on things we're developing? All of that is stuff we're looking at now that we think it has potential to impact us in 5 years.
It's funny you mentioned unconscious bias influences. I immediately thought of, because of the work I'm doing in HR, and we're not calling it HR anymore, right? We're calling it people organization. We'll get to that in a minute, which is our last topic. But I immediately think of unconscious bias in hiring. And I know that Alan is doing a lot of work in that space as well. I would think that since you say that ethical and unconscious bias influences are areas that you're closely monitoring right now, that there'll be some, interesting developments or thinking from you guys in that space before too long. What key improvements do you think your IT can make to make itself more effective for the customers it serves?
Well, since Thoughtbot's a very customer oriented, we use a lot of design thinking, which is just examination of the customer journey and process. I'm going to talk a little bit about my former firm, which is Liberty Mutual. Because when you ask me this question, I think about them and how we were really trying to reinvent a company that was it's a 100-year-old company in a modern age. And we thought about things like the digital experience, where Liberty Mutual sold insurance, and it was a very different process. So you take a list of very long questions and you convert them onto digital, and it just takes forever to fill out a form and then to know if you got insurance coverage. So it's important for that, a lot of firms to think about what is the experience that your users are actually going through as they use your service, and putting yourself in their mindset is the most effective way to serve them well, because if you can improve their experience, they'll have a greater chance of sticking around and enjoying their time with you, even on something boring like insurance.
Right.
You can make it less of a burden.
That's a segue, I think, into our last question about you talked about continuing to encourage key stakeholders to be present in important conversations. I think that, what are some of the ways technology teams, because let's face it, you have a lot of technology teams at Thoughtbot, how are they reinventing themselves and driving change within your organization?
I think they are taking ownership of things. I mentioned earlier about managing for today and tomorrow. I think that they are holding leaders accountable more and more. And I don't think it's just happening at Thoughtbot, it's happening everywhere. They're demanding that we all hold ourselves to higher standards, and even the language and the words that we use. Like an example I can give you is, and we've talked about this before, David, is the use of resources. I mean, you just said it right now, human resources is not human resources anymore. It's now people ops. And like, you know, when I first got to Thoughtbot, I said, oh, we need some resources to help us with this project. And the immediate question I got was, there are no resources here. Like, what? What do you mean? And then I had to be educated on, they're people, they're not resources. Okay, got it. Yeah, absolutely, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, that's an example of how they're holding leaders to higher standards. And you know, be careful on the words you use because they're important.
Yeah, true. I mean, part of that's, I guess, you know, the new being woke, but
Yeah.
you know, conversations that you and I've had in the past have resulted in our looking at things a little bit differently at Action. And for the longest time, Kai knows this, and I think Alan knows this, and a few others here know this. When we talk about ourselves at Action and what we do, for the longest time, we talked about resource augmentation, which is basically we work with digital teams at agencies, other agencies, enterprise companies and startups and scale-ups, offering their tech teams support. You know, when they get too busy and they need to outsource something, we're a good outlet for that. And we've now struck that from our language, where we now refer to it as team augmentation, and we dropped resource augmentation.
Oh, awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's on our website. You can check it out. I think we're good. That was great. It's always interesting to hear new insights and best business practices from our guests. And you didn't disappoint. Thank you so much, Diana. I think I'm gonna, Deepak, you're monitoring questions. Do we have any questions from the audience for Diana? And if we do, you can either ask them directly or we can read them. And if you have any that you, our attendees would like to post, you can do that now on the chat feature and we'll get to them.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, so we are getting some questions in. Let's take a look. I know we have about 14 minutes. How did, Diana, how did Thoughtbot recruit you? What caused you to make the change?
Thoughtbot recruited me easily.
You really loved Liberty, huh?
Oh no, I love Liberty. It's a great company. I had a great time at Liberty Mutual. I had a great experience there. When I was at Liberty Mutual, we did a lot of strategic partnerships with complex business development, which was awesome. It was, I think I grew so much in those 3 years. And it just made me a better person as well as a better professional. But I was doing so many things in technology that I was like thinking, I have to go back to tech because I'm getting a little bit bored in this, you know, in this space. And that's kind of why I made the jump back to tech.
That's great. Another question here. This one is really nice. How do you practice being assertive as someone who does not identify as an alpha personality in male-dominated spaces?
Being honest to yourself is really, really, really important. And just, so you have to not just be honest to yourself, you have to be loyal to yourself before you're loyal to anybody else. And so that helps with the courage, because, you know, if you're not naturally an alpha, sometimes for the alpha people here, it's easy, oh, no problem. But for the others of us who aren't that way, we have to sometimes summon courage. And where do you get that courage? You have to think about you. It's okay to be selfish and to think about your own values, and that's how you find the courage to get to be assertive.
Thank you. Another question from an audience. I believe the core shift in good business practice is taking a metaphysical approach. What about AR or AR and VR? I'm in the fashion industry, which is being adapted. Any thoughts or insights there?
Can you say the question again? I'm not sure.
Yeah. What about augmented reality and virtual reality? The participant is from the fashion industry, which is which is something they seem to be using. Maybe you can comment on augmented reality and virtual reality.
Yeah, I think it's got a lot of potential to help a lot of people. It's amazing. I mean, if you think about the pandemic, and if we were like, if we had the ability to use AR/VR right now, where it would help a lot with that feeling of isolation. Like a lot of the senior people were feeling isolated because, people living alone. That would have helped a lot there. In regard to other fields, like this meeting, we could have this meeting with our headsets on and all be present together and not even have to go anywhere. This is like, see the full person. There's just so much that could be done in that space. It's a really exciting, interesting space, actually.
Another question, where do you see the needs of employees going in today's environment, or what is key to keeping your best team members?
Giving them opportunity to grow and learn. I have so many folks that they just love to learn. Like it's just so important to them. And if they don't have that time, let's say they're on client work and they're not learning sufficiently on their client work, they're demanding, I need time to learn. and it's amazing. I mean, and it's great because I'm a learner too, but I just think that firms, we really have to figure out a way to make sure that we're feeding that need in a lot of people. Is how do we help them grow and learn new skills, and across the board, everyone,
That triggered a thought back to what I'd said at the very beginning about how Thoughtbot was structured along geographical lines, and your website read all that. But the way you've, I think, restructured and reorganized the company, if I'm not mistaken, where it's now not geographically centric in any respect. It's, it's us, it's you, doesn't matter where we are. And here are these new 4 disciplines that you've rebranded. That's part of the whole process of making people, we're not going to all be in an office together. The boundaries between Boston and New York, it's all blurred now. So what can we do? How can we restructure the organization so that it takes on greater purpose, not just for our clients, but for us, and learning within this new framework? Can you comment on that?
Yeah, it's been really exciting to see this, because we've gotten people from other countries that we never thought we'd ever
Recruit.
ever.
Yeah.
The diversity that's bringing to the table is outstanding. The thoughts, and the skill set that we're getting is it's wild. I love it. I think it's fantastic. We do want to offer the ability to eventually come back together. We think that's really important. We've been thinking about things like, maybe we'll have pop-up offices and we'll say, okay, let's go to Raleigh for like a week, and pay for everybody to travel and meet up in hotels and whatever. Or maybe we'll have an in-person summit once a year. So we are thinking about that as a way to bring us together. But right now we're really global.
That'll cost less than a week's worth of rent in a Manhattan skyscraper. So
it actually will.
Win-win.
Actually, well, not a week,
Right?
but a month.
Okay. Yeah, you can't stay at a no-tell motel. I guess it has to be somewhat nice.
Well, it actually seems like we're going to be
Motel
having people from other countries.
Yeah, true. That's right. You have to bring in people from overseas. We'll take any last questions if anybody has one. If not, if any of you want to stay on and unmute and have a question for Diana and just hang out and introduce yourselves, you can do that. It is now 6:24. So we have about 6 more minutes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everybody have a great weekend. And Diana, can't thank you enough on behalf of BTGNY. You've been a wonderful guest.
Thank you so
And I
much.
hope to see you live soon, one of these days.
Yeah.
I've been inoculated. I have the vaccine, so I'm good. I'm good to go.
Thank you for the little claps. I see them.
Sorry?
I saw all the little claps and thanking people.
Oh, that's really-
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, David. Thank you, Diana. Thanks for folks joining. Yeah. Any, last questions or take an opportunity to network or introduce yourself, feel free to do so. Max, it looks like you got a question.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Diana and David. I asked the question. I made a comment about metaphysics, and I'm also talked about ARVR because that's being used a lot in fashion. I'm in fashion tech, but metaphysics, the thing about being present, the thing about being conscious, all of that. I also teach Nada yoga. Those things are so important, and I think it's like a fundamental core to any good business that will survive and it will attract people. So the way you were speaking, it was like, oh wow, this is like totally conscious raising. and,
Cool.
and this is also Earth Day, so
Oh.
or Earth
True,
Week,
it is.
and I'm actually doing something I've never done before. I'm opening up a new age store in Chelsea, selling crystals and flowers and going to the spirit of all that stuff. So yeah, I'll use my background in social media marketing, optimization, all that stuff. Yeah. But I was just impressed by your dialogue, both you, David, and Diana. I was just impressed how you were speaking on such a high level, high spiritual level that it's just warmed my heart. Anyway,
Oh,
that's
Thank
what
thank
I'm.
you.
Thank you.
so
Thank you
much.
very much.
You're quite welcome. I'm going to call out some people who I haven't seen in a while, and I'm going to put a few people on the spot. I would love for Jennifer Hirschfeld to say hi. She's in from Dallas. Let's see if she
Hi, David.
takes the bait.
Hi, everybody.
She did. Hey, Jennifer.
Yeah. Nice to, I'm glad to meet everybody here virtually. I'm glad to be invited by you, David. It's been a fascinating hour. I really appreciate all your insights, Diana. It's been real pleasure listening to you.
Oh, thank you.
How's the
Okay.
weather in Dallas? I hope it's better than here. It's been
It's
40
great.
most of the day.
Yeah, it's been great and cold. I think we're sliding back into the fall again, into winter. I don't know, but we're supposed to get more hail again tonight, more baseball-sized hail. So,
Oh, God.
we have to do everything bigger and better in Texas, right? Including our weather. So,
Make sure the car is in a garage.
yes, it is. It's a very tight squeeze, but it's in there. So, I know David from a few years ago when I accidentally confused him with another David Simpson. It was a very fortuitous confusion on my part because he's been
I am one of a kind.
through the years. But I come from the world of alcohol, Bev, for the most part, with some brief forays into beauty and fashion retail. Most recently, I was dipping my toes into the startup world, and now I'm back into more freelance consulting. So it's been, like I said, a real pleasure to come back. I took a month off recently to move, and I'm getting my brain engaged again. So this has been a real pleasure.
No, thank you for joining us. And you worked at one point with one of my favorite brands, which is Shiner Beer from Texas.
And one question we had from you was, what's, as we wind things down, what's the best way to contact you?
Contact me, Jennifer. Me? That's for me.
Sorry, no.
Oh, you too, but
Both of
I
you.
think it was for me.
Both of us.
Just wanted to clarify.
We don't want you to feel left behind, Jennifer.
Dan, I'll let you answer that.
Both of us, Jennifer. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. I'm starting to force myself to try to use it. Diana Bald, first name, last name. I'm also easily found on dianabald@thoughtbot.com.
And LinkedIn.
And yeah, you can also email me at dianabald@gmail.com. First name, last name.
Good. And then Jennifer, if you want to type your contact information in here, you may do so, but there's no pressure at all. Most of us are on LinkedIn. That's how we reached out to you.
That's right.
Christophe, I see something here from Christophe. I'm wondering if it's a question. I'm going to read it. As we talked about.
No, it's not a question. It's just as we talk about the future of the organization at work, there was a nice piece on our business review about how Fujitsu is actually approaching the problem. So I just shared the link for anybody who wants to browse it. That's it.
I should look at that because Fujitsu is a client of ours over in the UK. There's also, I think it was the last issue, not the very last issue, the second to last issue of. Take care, Deepak. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you, Deepak.
Be good. Talk soon.
Bye.
The Economist did a cover story on the future of work, special issue 2 issues ago. So I would, if for those of you interested in that space, there might be some good stuff in there. I'm gonna pick.
I know we're up on time, but I had a quick question, if that's okay.
Please.
And I'm also okay just like leaving it on the floor, but as an online facilitator, I mainly work with students from different kinds of communities, and it's been a struggle to engage young kids from as young as like 10, even all the way up to 18, but a fun challenge nonetheless. And I wonder how high on the priority list has it been for companies and Thoughtbot to, I guess, seriously engage staff online in terms of like team building and community building, yeah, just even making the online experience, the co-working experience, a more enjoyable situation. I know that a lot of things have been on the priority list because of COVID and different sales and communication globally, but I wonder if these conversations are taking place in different companies about how to engage the staff in online.
Yeah, we're doing things. We have online summits. So it's like a day of activity where we don't work, we do fun things. We sent people care packages. So we sent them in the mail, like they got a t-shirt, they got a jacket, they got little toys, snacks. And then we also had a day of activities. We had like a cooking show, a pretend cooking competition, where actually people were actually cooking. We pretended like we were like TV hosts, and we were like competing against like who's a better cook. We couldn't taste our food, but we were just like playing. We just had a day of just pure silliness. It was really fun. And we just decided we're going to do this every quarter. So we're going to do it again soon. And that's just, I think people sometimes just need to have some goofiness in their lives.
Sure.
I may borrow that idea. Nice.
Yeah. Gracie, it's funny you mentioned school. My daughter is 14 and she's being homeschooled. She hasn't been in a classroom live since March of last year. And some schools are disasters. Some districts around the country just, have given up. But hers is quite good. They're using a platform called Schoology. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's one of the more popular ones. They haven't missed a beat, skipped a beat. I think, along with the good platform, you have to have the desire and the willingness of the teachers and the instructors to keep it going and to keep the students engaged. But she hasn't fallen behind. Now, one of the schools, I think they're going to pass everybody because of pandemic, which I think is wrong, because there are people in my daughter's class who have skipped. She told me the other day there were one girl has missed 40 classes this year, and she'll pay for it later, I suppose, when she graduates into the 10th grade and is behind. But my daughter's kept pace, and Schoology has been very, very good. But you have to match it with the desire and the talent and the stick-to-itiveness of the teachers on your side as well.
Yeah.
Jennifer asked a question. Gracie, great question. I would take that even further. How can we use technology, gaming, AI to engage and motivate students? And then you wrote back, oh yes, gaming is a great angle to approach student engagement. I'm going to call on John McLennan. You can't hide, John. Maybe he is. John, if you're there, turn off your mute button. No, he's hiding. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll wrap it up now. If anybody has any last thoughts or comments or questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. We will be posting it. So we've recorded this today. Typically what we do at BTGNY, we break it up into segments and then we post these online. So if any of you would like a copy of this today, or if you'd like to be on the list to receive the snippets, if you will, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or at david.simpson@axioned, AXIONED.com, and we'll make sure you're on the list. Our next Fireside Chat will be sometime in June. We're not sure. We hope it'll be live in Manhattan. One of the beauties of these remote Fireside Chats, however, is that, you know, we can bring in speakers and people from all over the country. So that's kind of nice too. So if there's no other comments or questions, I wish you all a good night. Stay safe. If you haven't been vaccinated, go get vaccinated. And Diana, thank you again so much for being our guest today on BTGNY. I'll reach out to you soon and hope to see you in person shortly.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.